Alright, hello everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about dividing decimals. That is our TEAC standard 5.3F. So whenever you see 5.3F, we're dividing decimals. Now, this is a super useful skill in real life, whether you're sharing money or measuring something. So today we're going to look at how to divide decimals step by step. Alright, so let's get started. Alright guys, so I went ahead and wrote down our number here. So it's 42 hundredths divided by 6. Okay, and then when we actually divide it, this is the way I like to set it up. So one of the most important things that we have to remember when dividing decimals is the decimal point. So even before I start solving this, I like to just make sure I place my decimal point where it's supposed to go. So once I place my decimal where it's supposed to go, everything else just you divide like you would normally. So just imagine it's not there. So how many times can 6 go into 0? 0 times. What about, can 6 go into 4? It can't. So what about 42 though? It can. So I know 6 times 7 is 42. Again, because because 6 can't go into the 0 or 4, go ahead and put a 0 right there as a placeholder. Then 7 times 6, the multiplication sign I just like to put so I kind of remember. 7 times 6, gives me 42. Subtract gives me a 0. So my answer would be 7 hundredths. Alright, let's go ahead and look at another example. Okay guys, now we're looking at a bit of a bigger number. So let's go ahead and look at that here. So I know my first step whenever I'm dividing decimals is, remember, place my decimal where it needs to go. Now, I know 4 can't go into 3, but so I can put a 0 here and just keep going, so I'll do that. And then, how many times can 4 go into 32? I believe that's 8. 8 times 4 is 32. That gives you a 0. You bring down your 4 like you would normally. Like I said, you're just dividing like you would normally do. And then how many times can 4 go into 4? That's 1. That gives you 1 times 4 gives me 4. Subtract that, gives you 0 here. Your answer is going to be 81 hundredths. Alright, let's go ahead and look at one more example. Now let's go ahead and look at this example. This one's and I'll go ahead and just show you. 7 divided by, 56 hundredths. So as I was saying earlier, I normally just like to put my decimal here first. But what I want to focus on is why I just put the zeros, because that may confuse some of you guys. So the reason I do that is, for example, 7, how many times could 7 go into 0? It can't. But if I put a 0 here and just multiply it, so 0 times 7 gives me 0, right? And that gives me a 0. So now I just bring down my 5. Now, how many times can 7 go into 5? 0 times again. So 0 times 7 gives me 0. And then I bring down subtract 0 minus 5 gives me 5. And then I just bring down my 6. Now I have, how many times can 7 go into 56? Yeah, well, it's going to be 8. So 8 times 7 gives me 56. Subtract that, gives me 0. So notice how, I mean, the reason I skip the 0 is because it kind of saves me time. But if you feel that, putting in the zeros helps you out, then go ahead. Just make sure that you are doing the correct steps, okay? Ultimately, you're going to arrive at the same answer, okay? So now let's look at a star formatted question and how we might see this on star. All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at this star formatted question. Again, this is 5.3F. But the thing with 5.3F is that you are also dividing decimals using models. So anytime you are dividing, they may ask you to divide using models and how that looks using the actual hundredth blocks. Okay, so here, let's go ahead and read this. The person has $1.20, or 20 cents in pennies. Okay, so I have $1.20 in pennies. This person makes 4 equal stacks of pennies. Okay, so underline 4. The equation 1/20 divided by 4 equals 30 shows the value of each stack in dollars. Okay, which hundredths model best represents this situation? Okay, so let's go ahead and think about this. We have our total, which is $1, and I'm going to represent as one of the hundredths charts. And then we also have 20 cents. And this I'll represent as 2 rods. He's saying that it's pennies, but I'll go ahead and just represent this as so this is your whole, basically. Okay, this is what you're dividing, and then you're going to divide that by 4. So let's go ahead and start looking at these examples and see which one of these actually makes sense. Okay, here, if you notice, each one of these, the whole is the same, right? So you have one shaded in with 2 rods, one shaded in with 2 rods, one shaded in with 2 rods, one shaded in, and then you have your 2 rods right here, which basically says the $1.20. Now, what I want us to look at is this right here, the 3/10 or 30 hundredths. So it's saying that every person is getting, or so you're dividing it into 4 stacks. Each stack is supposed to have 30 pennies. Okay, so this is the entire amount. This is how many stacks. 4 is the number of stacks you're dividing them into, and then 30 is the actual amount that everybody should have. So let's go ahead and look at this. Here, it looks like they've divided the entire thing into 3 groups, okay? And then each group has 1, 2, 3, 4 rods, which is basically 40 pennies in each, 40 cents. That doesn't match with the 30 cents that we have over here. So I'm going to say that this is not our answer. Now let's look at this one. It's divided into 3 groups, okay? So just off of this, that it's divided into 3 groups, 1, 2, 3, I know it's not divided into the equal number, okay? Now let's look at it. You have your 10 rods here, and then you have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then you have 1, 2, 3 over here. Guys, because this is divided into 3 groups, it does not match up with how many stacks we have. This answer is also wrong. Now let's go into these. These are the 2 questions they might want to trick you with. So let's go ahead and look at them. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4 groups. Okay, so that matches up. But I don't know if you look at this right here. There's some of it left over. So if you look at here, it says 4 equal stacks. Okay, so the entire amount is being divided. Here in this picture, you have some of it not being divided. It's blank. Okay, so this would be the distractor. Now let's go ahead and look at this here. Okay, the hole is there, the 2 rods are there, and then 1. Let me go ahead and number this. 1, 2. 2, 3, 4 groups. Now let's check inside each group. You have 1 rod here, 2 rods, and then 3 rods. That is 30, 10 each, 10, 20, 30. Each one of these gives me 30, okay? If I have 3 of these, or 4 of these, sorry, I can do, if I actually wanted to just check, well, there's 4 of them. Let's see, 0, and then that's 12, and then I just count my decimal. 1, 2, 120. That is what I started with. This answer is the one that's up here. Okay. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at one more. All right, guys. Let's take a look at this next question. This will be the new item types of questions that you guys will be seeing on Star. You have to drag and drop the numbers. So in this case, let's go ahead and read it. It says, Luis and his two brothers. Let me go ahead and, let me fix my pen feature. All right, here we go. It says, Luis and his two brothers, does it work? Okay, yeah. Luis and his two brothers equally shared some waffles. So we don't know the amount of waffles. Ooh, sorry. That's not good. Okay, let's go here. Some waffles. We don't know the amount of waffles. The model shown represents the number of waffles Luis and his two brothers each received. So we know there's 3 brothers. And there's an amount of waffles. And it's divided into 3 pieces. We don't know what each one of them are. We don't know what the whole is. I'll go ahead and do it. We don't know. But we know now. Let's go ahead and see the key. 4 of these squares equals 1 waffle. So I know that, okay, there's 1 waffle here, but it's also like half of it. So I could either do 1.5, or I can do 1.5, right? So I could do that for both of these. So I know that 1.5 would go here, 1.5 would go here, and 1.5 would go here. Okay, so now I know exactly how much each brother got, but I want to know the whole. So they're asking me here, because you guys are going to have to drag and drop your answers, it's asking you right here, what is the whole, and then divide that by the number, by a number, and then it gives you an answer. So we know that you were dividing by 3. There should be a 3 here because there's 3 brothers. And then we also know that in each one of these squares, we have 1.5. So we should have 1.5 here. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you a second. You can go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and solve it. And let's see if you figured it out. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and look at this one more time. So to find out the whole, you would just need to add these 3 numbers together. These 3. Okay? These 3 numbers. Now let's go ahead and do that. Or we can just multiply. Yes, if some of you guys are thinking, well, I can just multiply. Yes, that's a lot easier. Let's go ahead and do that instead. So 5 times 3 is 15. And then 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. I have a decimal, moves over 1, so my decimal would go here. So my actual sentence would be, my equation basically would be 4.5 divided by the 3 brothers, and each brother got 1.5 waffles. Okay? All right, guys. That's going to be it. Let's keep practicing.